We're here to find out exactly what it is that the good people of Siskiyou County are going to do to resist and offset and hopefully terminate this action. And I have a gentleman with me. His name is?
Rich Marshall, Siskiyou Water Users.
Well, Rich, what is it exactly that you're planning on doing and the people of Siskiyou County are planning on doing to stop this?
Well, we have a number of items that we're working on, of course, but one of the ones we're doing today is presenting a petition for a class action lawsuit on behalf of the ratepayers of Pacific Corp who have taken funds illegally from the citizens, the ratepayers, and have assembled that money in a trust which was supposed to be used to defray costs of dams or build fish ladders. Well, now what Pacific Corp is doing is they're turning this whole thing over to a third-party faceless entity located in New York City on the 42nd floor of a building in New York City. We can't even find out who the officers of this corporation are, and it has no asset value as far as we know, and both the federal government, the state governments, state of California, state of Oregon, and Pacific Corp are trying to wash their hands of any damage that takes place as a result of removing the dams.
I have a question about that. Congress has been here. You've had your congressman here. You've had people from his office here. First question is, have you had anybody here from Ted Gaines' office, your state senator?
Ted Gaines has been here once before, but he hasn't been here recently, no.
I'm talking about this issue.
On this issue, no. Well, he has written a letter to the group run by Ed Sheets, who put together this nefarious contract that's being done, and suggested the meeting should be public and open to the people who are affected by it instead of secret and closed, which is what they had been doing.
Is that legal?
No, that's not legal because you have federal and state agencies in there, and you have other people who are paid with federal and state money, i.e. the green hat people there that are doing the damage on environmental work. In fact, I've got to raise an interesting point for the environmentalists. Why is it so important to kill the fish? I thought they were supposed to be about protecting fish and protecting property and protecting things, but they're not. They want to release all the sediment behind those dams. We know from the DOI environmental study that this will kill the fish in the river, including other aquatic life forms, including those animals that depend on the fish that are in the water.
Well, let me get back to the help you get from your government. Okay, I guess the first question is does Congress have any jurisdiction here in enforcing law? Do they have any jurisdiction?
I think they do if they chose to enforce it. There's a Klamath Compact that was put in 1957, and that was something the county of Siskiyou was intimately involved in putting together through Senator Collier at the time. That particular treaty, which is the law of the river, referred to as the law of the river, was approved by Congress, signed by President Eisenhower at the time, and was approved by both houses of legislature in Oregon and California. And it is in effect a treaty, and that's the highest form of law you can get. Now, no one wants to talk about it. That's just, to us, a strange thing, because it should be controlling all of the actions that are taking place with regard to the Klamath dams and the Klamath River. That's how it was set up. That's why it was set up. And people are avoiding it, including the people who are trying to get the dams out. They don't want to talk about it. But I think that's an avenue that the Congress could explore because it's their law.
Well, here's the bottom line to this. My question is that what jurisdiction does Congress have? You say you think they might have some, but there's a couple of questions that come to mind. Prop 1 is responsible for a lot of this. Is that correct?
Not completely.
But some.
Prop 1 has $250 million in it that was slated for removing, quote, impediments. It wasn't specifically for the dams. It's actually for 3 other projects that the money was approved for. So the legislature still has a say in this because so far the budget...
The state legislature?
State legislature has not approved the funding of the $250 million, okay? So that's an issue ahead of us yet to be dealt with. But what's really, I want to emphasize for anybody that's listening and concerned, in this agreement that's just being put together, the alternative KHSA agreement, they're planning on giving the dams to a dam removal entity. It's located in
It's
New
a
York.
501c3, is that correct?
That's correct, 501c3.
How can it be a C3 that's educational?
I know, but it's a C3 that they're giving money to so that they can write it off. But Pacific Corp is going to give the dams to that group. The state of California is going to give its $250 million, and Pacific Corp is going to give all the other monies that it's been collecting from the ratepayers to this third-party entity who, if it goes out of business or doesn't have the proper liability protection, the dams could be half undone, and we have all kinds of pollution problems, and they don't have to take care of it because they go bankrupt. Then who takes care of it?
That's true. And, what it seems, at least if I'm understanding this correctly, is that the people who actually voted against taking the dams out are the people who are actually having to fund the dams going out. Is that correct?
We call that insult to injury. Everybody can understand that. We don't want the dams out. We think they serve a valid purpose, and that's why they were put there in the first place. They provide flood control, they provide water storage, they provide clean hydropower. 3 of the 4 dams are in Siskiyou County. Siskiyou County is not even consulted in the process, hasn't been part of the process, and its citizens haven't had anything really to say about it.
I've heard some things about secret meetings that were being had. From what I understand, if these secret meetings are valid and if they are substantiated, is it true that someone was even asked to sign a disclosure statement that they had to sign a statement about going to this thing or something? Can you explain that?
Yes, actually it was more than a disclosure statement. It included a provision that if they attended the meetings, not only could they not disclose, but the decisions that were made on a group basis, they were supposed to agree to. So whether you felt the dam should come out or not, you were essentially agreeing that you would agree that the dam should come out.
And you had somebody who actually had this happen to them.
Well, yes, this happened to a number of people in the process, and we have, by the way, I'd like to point out, 7 of the 9 counties that are impacted would not sign this KBRA agreement or KHSA agreement, and they're the ones, particularly Siskiyou County, which says 68% of the river frontage. 3 of the 4 dams are in Siskiyou County, and they're not included in the process.
Well, in insisting upon this procedure in these secret meetings, isn't that something that's against federal law?
Where you have federal and state agencies involved, it's against the law for them to be meeting in secret. And they've done that. We know they've done that.
Okay, do you have people who can be plaintiffs in your case to come forth and say they were there, they witnessed this? Because obviously that's what it would take.
Yeah, well, and the records are obtainable from the state and federal agencies that attended those meetings, and we know who they are, who were there. We have records of who attended those meetings. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and it's amazing what you do, and just as a fellow citizen, thank you for the hard work you do and for standing up and having the courage to do this. Thank you very much.
Jerry, let me just say as a final conclusion, we have to do it because no one else is. And
Yes,
so
sir.
we've got to stand up and make ourselves heard.
Yes, sir.